Anyway, I want you to turn to this sheet, and I'm going to talk about the only 4 sources of funding that Pasco County has. So turn to this sheet right here. Now flip the page and look at this right here. It should look like this. Okay, every year, typically in the newspapers you hear that the legislature has allocated, $70 million in PICO. Oh, upside down. Thank you, Marty Kay. Glad you're paying attention. $70,000 for PICO dollars. Okay, anybody know what PICO stands for? $70 million, public education capital outlay dollars. But this shows you where it actually comes from. So if you look down here where it's highlighted in yellow, every one of you pays public education capital outlay. So it's about 2.5% on your electric bill. So if you go look at your electric bill and any of your other energy bills, you'll see a gross receipts tax, and that is PICO. Those PICO dollars go to the state, okay, and they're put in a big pot, and they were for the purpose of funding higher education in K through 12. In the old days, they were for the purpose of funding higher education. Then they started funding K through 12 construction with them as well, but then they expanded it. Guess what they expanded it to? Charter schools. And I have no issue with charter schools. We have some really good charter schools in Pasco County. The point being that they took those PICO dollars that were allocated for public schools and higher education, and she's very good over here. I can see her with her hand. She spread them more thinly, didn't they? So they took a pot of money that was being used by 2 entities, and suddenly it's being used by 3. Here's the bigger problem. When you hear that the state has allocated $70 million in PICO funds, you think, wow, that's a lot of money. Okay, but remember what I told you. One school, $20 million. Middle school, $35 to $40 million. High school, $65 to $70 million. Doesn't sound like as much money. So if you take that $70 million and you think there are 67 counties in Florida, let's forget about the number of students in each county, because that's actually how it's allocated. But how much money would that be? That's about $1 million a county. So in the relative scheme of things, PICO is not very much money. Then if you look at this, right here, okay, this shows you what we got in PICO. So back in 2006, we got somewhere around $3 million. Back in 2008, we got somewhere around $4 million. Okay, remember what I said, 20 million, 35, 40 million, 70 million. The most that we've gotten from PICO in recent times is $4.5 million. Now here's the big problem. All of those of you who can read a graph, what's obvious about this graph?
It goes down to 0.
It goes down to 0. For 3 years, we got no money for PICO. 0 money came to public schools for PICO.
Where'd it go?
Well, here's the bigger question. Did you continue to pay the gross receipts tax on your electric bill?
I'm sure.
Yes, you did. Okay, so every parent, every teacher, every person in this county continued to pay money for a fund that should be going to public school education. For 3 years, you got none of that. Okay, that's PICO. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Just to be clear, this was taken away from Pasco County, or it wasn't allocated in Pasco
Nobody.
County? We're not
Nobody
talking
got
about Hillsborough or the
Yeah,
other.
we are.
All counties.
All
Yeah.
counties, okay.
Nobody got PICO for 3 years.
Got
Okay,
it.
no public education K through 12 institution.
In the state of
Charter
Florida.
schools got it. Some K through 12s got it, but we didn't get it. A lot of that money was reallocated to charter schools. Okay. All right. And again, remember what I said. Okay, I didn't come here to trash charter schools. The point being, we had this pot of money, and it's being spread too thin. So that's PICO dollars. Now, if you turn to decline in local funding, right here, see that one? Okay. So we get PICO dollars sometimes, and then the next way that we fund schools is with our capital outlay millage. All of you who own homes should have got a trim notice in the mail about a week ago. Did everybody get it, telling you what your taxes are? Okay. Really look at that thing. I know a lot of people get that trim notice and they go, I got to pay my taxes, my property taxes. But actually look, at what they're charging you and what the millage rates are. And what you find out is that your school funding actually went down. And most of the parents I talk to are like, why? Because they don't mind paying the extra 40 or 50 bucks a year to ensure that their schools are where they need to be. So what happened to our capital outlay millage? Forever, we got 2 mills, and you'll see on this sheet, it says 2 mills, okay, in 2007. in 2008, due to the recession, they said you can't take capital millage anymore at 2.0, you have to take it at 1.75. Okay, and then the following year, they changed it to 1.5. So now our capital outlay millage, instead of us being able to assess on ad valorem 2 mills, we can only assess 1.5 mills. A mill in the whole entire county, when the county collects property taxes from everyone, a mill equals $23 million, okay? So the school district, okay, when we get 1 mill, we get 23 mil. Now, if they cut us in half, that means that they basically, instead of the 1.5, there's about 11 or 12 million dollars that we're not getting. So since 2008, we've been getting less and less and less money to build schools, because you can't mix capital and operating dollars. This is just capital. And so our money has been going down. So we've lost 85 to 100 million dollars or so. It's hard to say because the millage rate fluctuates every year, but and as the tax base changes and values in homes grow. But as you can see, our capital dollars for building schools has gone way down. And you might ask the question, why did they do that? Oh, there was a good reason to do it. We were in a recession. So they said, we're not going to assess as much money in capital. We'll do it on the operating side because we have to keep doors open, we have to keep teachers paid, we have to pay utility bills and so forth. But guess what happened? The economy's coming back and everything's looking a little bit better, okay? We got a growth rates that are, probably 2%, 2.5%. Things are a little bit better. But when we asked the legislature, can we have our 0.5 in millage back, guess what?
Nope.
They said no, because that would be a tax increase. My response to that is, no, it wouldn't. It would be restoring our capital outlay millage that you took away during the recession. So that money is gone. So
But can I ask a really quick question on that? Like, why would it be such a hit when between 2000 to 2015 and 2007, the amount of homes is like triple? Like, it's so we wouldn't be taking. I realize it's a 0.5%, but it's also an increase in a ton of homes that are still taking that same. So why is it such a? Why doesn't it balance a little bit in there?
Well, what do you mean?
Well, you're saying it would take a $12 million hit, but you're assuming in
Because there's
2000
more property
there's a lot
value
more
being
property.
assessed.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot more property, but the problem you have to remember that is not only when they at the same time this was happening, property values went down. So you bought a house.
The value of the house.
That's why all
Not
of the
in, not in the ones that were already, when you tried to sell it, yes, but everybody else was still paying way over price for their homes, so you were still collecting that same percentage, right? When it tried to
no,
sell.
because your property's actually in the property appraiser's office is devalued. Your property value goes down. So if you look at your property over the years, your tax base actually goes down.
Right, okay.
Okay, tax base grows when everything's expanded. So you buy a house today at $200,000, and when the economy's booming and everything, that house is worth $300,000. And
Right.
so that changes the impact of the millage rate.
Okay.
So you have to kind of remember that tax bases grow. Your house may stay the same, but it increases in value over time when the economy is doing well. When the economy is doing poorly, the value in your home shrinks, and that's why so many people got caught underwater because they paid, $400,000 or $500,000 per house. All of a sudden, the economy tanked, and they had a house that was worth $200,000 or $250,000 and a gigantic mortgage payment. So, decline in local funding. Let's go to penny for Pasco, okay? And when we did the penny for Pasco, I ran the first penny for Pasco back in 2004. We voted for that on March 8th, 2004 in a presidential primary. I showed you these earlier numbers because that's the problem that we were responding to right here, is that our schools were getting overcrowded. What's happening in Pasco County now is that we basically ran the penny for Pasco again, and it was approved. But the issue was that we had a lot of parents out there who were concerned because their aging schools didn't have the infrastructure and technology and stuff that they needed. So the penny for the next 2 years or 10 years has been totally focused on remodels, renovations, and infrastructure improvements. So Land O'Lakes High School is going to get a facelift. Quail Hollow, has anybody been out to Quail Hollow? Got a big facelift. And Claude Elementary got a facelift. Shady Hills got a facelift. So a lot of these schools are getting facelifts, and it's important to do that. Have any of you seen the newspaper articles? They probably were in the newspaper 3 or 4 weeks ago, where they were talking about Hillsborough County and all their deferred maintenance issues, because their air conditioners are falling apart, their buildings are falling apart, and they don't have the funds they need to repair them. The new penny is totally focused on making sure that doesn't happen to our schools, making sure buildings like this, buildings in other parts of the county do not fall apart. So that's the good news. Now, the last source of funding, so remember we got PICO, we got capital outlay millage, we got the penny for Pasco, and then the last source, if you go here to impact fees,
Who pays for the penny for Pasco?
everybody.
We do as.
Anything you buy. So, in most places around the state, the sales tax rate is 6%, and here it's 7%.
That's why when I go to Wawa and the coffee's like $1, I pay $1.60. Like, I'm like, wait a minute.
$1.07.
No, it's $1.16. Is that like another tax?
Oh, they're double charging you. tax.
Yeah.
You gotta go back and check.
No, your sales tax rate in Pasco County is 7%, so,
I was
yeah.
going down the road.
So your cup of coffee is actually costing you more than $1 at Wawa. But look at it this way, you get free air if you need to blow up your tires there, so.
Free coffee on Fridays.
Yeah, free coffee on Fridays. So anyway, the impact fees. So the fourth source of funds for schools is impact fees. Anybody know what an impact fee is? Impact fee is a fee charged on new homes. Okay, not if you live here. Let's say you live here and you have a home, and then Marty Kay is selling her home, and you go buy into that home. You don't charge an impact fee. It is on a new house. And the way it works is when a builder builds a new house, they have to go into the county and they pay an impact fee. And you never see it as a parent if you're buying a new house. It's just, the house sells for $300,000. And, the builder's already paid the impact fee, you put a down payment on it, you get a mortgage, so you never know what the impact fees are. But builders do. And builders and developers hate impact fees, okay, because it's a fee that they have to pay for every new home they build. And the concept is that if you build a new home, okay, that has kids in it, and let's say you're coming from South Georgia, and you come down here with 3 kids and you buy a new home, those 3 kids have an immediate impact on your school system. And so this is a fee that helps offset that impact that they have on your school system. And right now that fee in Pasco County is about $4,800. We just had a new impact fee study, which is a fancy study that looks at growth in the county, the number of kids that are in the county, what your average single family home generates. Like, for example, in Pasco County, I can't remember what the number is, but like the average single family home generates like 0.29 kids. Okay, so you say, well, how is that possible? Because most of the people I know have 1, 2, or 3 kids. But when you look across the entire county, okay, at the elderly populations and different populations, basically we come up with a figure that every home generates so many kids, and we use that figure to project into the future based on population growth and what we know about housing starts and so forth as to what that fee should be. And so the new study that we have out indicates that the impact fee on a new house should be $10,000, a little over $10,000, $10,100. We've gotten impact fee increases in Pasco County 2 times, okay? And the issue is always extremely controversial because, of course, builders and developers do not like these increased impact fees because they will say to you that, it creates a situation where people can't afford to buy houses and so forth. They also say that it could slow the economy, slow our recovery. And what I would say to you is there's not a shred of evidence that that's true. We have asked builders and developers to show us a research study or something that shows having an impact fee on a new house will create a situation where people can't buy houses. Additionally, when you look at Pasco County, what do you think is going to happen here over the next few years? I mean, it's going to explode. It's going to explode. What you have happening in Pasco County is from Trinity to Wiregrass, okay, and this what we, everybody calls the corridor now. You have this massive growth that's running from Wiregrass to Trinity, and then it's gonna mushroom, okay, up Highway 41. You're not gonna see lots of growth out in the northeast, you're not gonna see lots of growth out along Highway 52. And part of the reason is that Pasco County has created along the 54 corridor something they call urban service areas. And the idea behind an urban service area is you try to push growth into that area, because that's where the infrastructure is. Builders want to build in that area because it's less expensive, because you don't have to put in as much infrastructure as is the case when you're building, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, or as we often refer to, the boondocks. Not that there's really any place like that left in Pasco County. Pretty soon we'll be asking for an impact fee increase. Here's the catch. Who do you think approves the impact fee increase?
The builders.
No.
Voters.
What will happen is the school board will look at the impact fee resolution and they'll approve it. I anticipate that we'll have a 5-0 vote saying we approve this impact fee increase. But then we send it over to the county commission and we say we would like for you to approve this, because the county commission has control of impact fee increases, because they're the ones that are in control of development approvals and so forth. It will go to the county commission, and that will be the real challenge. Will your county commission approve this impact fee? And what I would suggest to you is that the impact fee will not solve our problems. So I didn't come here today to say, you know, that if we get this impact fee, it'll solve all the problems that we have relative to capital. What solves the problems relative to capital in Pasco County is having a balanced revenue stream. So we need a little bit of penny money. We need our capital outlay millage back. We need our penny for Pasco dollars, and we need an increase in the impact fees. So all of those revenue sources help us keep balanced. If we don't get that balance, here's what's going to happen. Is we're going to increasingly, especially in the corridor, look more and more like this. And we can do it now and get ahead of it, because eventually what will happen is when we get overcrowded and every parent's going nuts and cars are backed up and schools are suffering, what will happen? Somebody will approve funding, okay, either the county commission or the legislature. Someone will approve getting us help, and then it'll take us, you know, to put the first school up, it'll take us 2.5 to 3 years, okay? Because, you know, most elementaries, once you start, run you around 2 years to get them done, 18 months to 22 months, middle school's longer, high school's longer. So we'll reach that critical mass when it comes to funding. So what we're asking is that when we go to the county commission and we ask them for an increase in impact fees, that if you're willing, that you put your name down on this sheet of paper. And when the time comes for us to do that, we'll send you a little note via the internet to your email, just letting you know what's going on with impact fees, and ask that you show up at a commission meeting, or that you write your commissioners a letter saying we support impact fees, or that you call them letting them know that you support impact fees to help stay abreast of the growth in Pasco County. So I'll pass that around, and if Marty Kay could either give it back to me, you don't have to sign it, but just if you're willing to do something relative to county commissioners, which would be write them a letter, call them, or come to a commission meeting and advocate for impact fees, we'd really appreciate it.